Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to our fall season coaches call. Hard to think that we're already talking about the fall season when it's like 98 degrees outside. I see a lot of fans running in people's houses, but we're here nonetheless and ready to talk about an exciting upcoming fall season. People are still strolling in, so we're gonna give it a couple minutes or just another minute to make sure everybody's in and ready to go before we jump into it. Thank you all for attending. Welcome to those who are just joining us. I'm gonna give it another minute before we get started. All right. Team, are we good? Did everybody see my screen share with the PowerPoint? All right. Excellent. All right. Well, 6:32, so let's jump into it. Thank you everybody for coming. This is our 2023 fall season meeting where we're going to talk about bowling, volleyball, and flag football in the upcoming seasons. We're gonna jump into it. Just want to do quick round the room introduction so you all know who's here. Many of you are already connected and know much of our team who's with us today, but joining us is Shaka Sutton, Susan, and the competitions team. So that's Susan Foe, Corey Chandler, Mike Ruspel, and Kara Wallmeyer. On our coach development side, everybody knows Denise. Denise, give a big wave hello. Our young athletes team is here today, Mandy and Ashton. Casey is joining us from our health side, so she's going to talk a little bit about all the healthy athlete activities that we're doing. Christy, I missed you on the slide, but Christy's here from our fundraising and development team. She's going to talk about the playing pool at the top of the call, and then you got your outstanding team of regional managers. Out west, we got Michelle. Northeast, we got Elizabeth. Southeast, we got Kyle. And for those of you who haven't met Katie yet, she is our Denver regional manager. I moved into a new role recently, and I am our senior director of regional services, leading our team of regional managers. So this is the crew who's going to be leading you through the call tonight. Jumping into just to talk about what we're going to be covering here today. We're going to start off with Plain Pull, talk about a fundraising opportunity that's exciting and available for you guys as teams and local programs. And we're going to talk about some of the paperwork stuff that we've been working on and new updates around paperwork, updates to our athlete application and Class A process. Then we're going to hand it off to our young athletes team and our healthy athletes team to talk about activities and programming that they're going to be offering this coming fall. And then we'll jump into the meat and potatoes of all of our fall season updates, entry forms, competition information, dates, etc. And then we'll wrap up with some administrative stuff and give you guys an opportunity for Q&A at the end. If you guys have any questions as we go along, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll get some of the team here monitoring the chat and happy to provide those prompts as we go along and answer your questions throughout tonight's call. So we're gonna jump into hand it off to Christy, who's going to talk about our Plain Pull series.
All right, thanks, Adrian. Appreciate it. My name is Christy Obregon. I am the events manager here at Special Olympics Colorado, and we have some exciting Plain Pulls coming up. The Plain Pull, we're having 2 of them this year. One is going to be in Denver on August 26th. That is going to be a huge event. It's one of our largest events of the year for the Plain Pull. We're hoping about 92 teams joining us, all with 25 people on the team. And I know that number might sound crazy to a lot of you, but we will also have volunteers and some Special Olympics athletes, including some power lifters, to help us pull that plane and get it moving for everyone. So it's going to be a fun team effort event at Denver on August 26th. And then we also have our Colorado Springs plane pull, which is a little bit smaller. So if you're not able to make the Denver plane pull, September 9th, we're going to have the Colorado Springs plane pull. Both of those are Saturdays. And it's a really fun time. We go out, we'll have awesome vendors, food will be handed out, giveaways, a bounce house at the Denver plane pull. I believe even Segway rides at the Denver plane pull. So lots going on. It'll be really fun. We'd love to have you all there in teams. You're welcome to not only have maybe your team, but you can invite friends, family, coworker to join your team as well to grow that community. And with all of you for local programs, we offer a split. So the split looks a little bit different if any of you did Polar Plunge this year and had a team there. But if your team raises in between $1,000 to $1,499, it's a 25% will go back to your team. And then 1,500 and above, 50% will go back to your team. And really what that means is you can use that money that goes back to you to either pay for practice time, equipment if you need it, pizza parties, uniforms, whatever it may be that you're like, our team really needs this. It's a great opportunity to not only get money for your team, but also get money to support the programs that we run throughout the year. Because that's where all of this money goes when it is fundraised. So with that, I'm just going to quick share my, I might not be able to share my screen, but we have a local program flyer that I will send to you, Adrian, to send to everyone. And it just gives you a little bit more in-depth information about what the split means, how you can participate, and kind of build that team. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to either Adrian or myself, and we would be happy to answer any questions you have. I'm actually going to put my email in the chat. So if any of you have questions, you can go ahead and send that my way through our email. And we'd love to have you all there. It's going to be 2 very fun events. And if anyone has questions, I'd love to help answer anything you might have.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy. It's plane pull's an awesome opportunity. If you guys have participated in the Polar Plunge series, we structure it very similarly in the way we do our fundraising for the plane pull. Just a really great fun day to be out on tarmac, which not a lot of people get the opportunity to do. And pulling a plane is a whole mess of fun. So highly encourage you guys to take advantage of it if you haven't explored it before, and it'll all benefit your team in the long run. So thank you, Christy, appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on. So I'm going to talk about some just kind of important updates that we're doing as far as emergency management. So first off, going into our competition season for regional and state competitions, we're implementing a new alert system in the event of an emergency that takes place at competition. So if you hear 3 horns, you please stop, look, and listen for instructions from a Special Olympics Colorado staff member who will provide updates on an emergency situation taking place at the competition. Hopefully we never have to use this, but did want to inform you guys of this update to our procedures of how we are going to inform you guys and all of our participants of any issues, emergency situations that pop up at our competitions. We are also going to have medical professionals and law enforcement present in most of our events, and we're going to distribute emergency contact cards as part of coaches packets at coach registration. So these contact cards will have who's going to be your point of contact for that event, and who to notify in the event of any medical emergency or emergency situation that arises at a competition. So if you have anything that pops up at a competition, that will be your point of contact. If you have anything that pops up at a practice, any emergency situation that we need to be aware of, please contact your regional manager. It's very important that we are informed of any medical or just situational emergencies that arise at your practices. And we'll cover that more here in a second. And then we just have some ongoing training that we've made available for staff and coaches. We will look to continue to explore those as we go along, and we'll share more information on available training opportunities over the coming months. As I mentioned, incidents at practices or competition, in the event of an injury or accident at a practice, it's important that you complete an incident report form detailing the nature of the incident. This should be provided back to a regional manager within 24 hours of the incident taking place. So if in the event of an athlete or unified partner requiring medical attention at your practice, it's important to notify your regional manager immediately as those take place, so we could walk you through the next steps of anything that what that situation may need, what it may entail, what kind of additional support we may be able to provide from the Special Olympics office. If you don't have the incident report form, we will make it available to you in the recap email that will follow up from this call, and then you will also be able to find it on our website, or you can also contact your regional manager who will be able to provide that to you as well. Severe weather at practices. So we kind of defer to you guys as coaches to make those decisions for your teams. If you think that there's inclement weather on the horizon, you think that it is unsafe for your team to hold a practice, you are perfectly empowered to be able to make that decision on your own behalf and cancel that practice and communicate that with your team. Here's some just general recommendations around heat index and air quality and just general like potential weather that you may experience at practices to use as a guide in making that determination on whether you should or shouldn't hold practice. In the event of a lightning strike at practice, it's our policy to have a 30-minute waiting period from the most recent strike prior to starting that practice again. So it's obviously been a very weather heavy summer. So fall, I imagine, hopefully won't be as busy as the summer was, but did want to give you guys those tips as you move along. Now we're going to go into some just required COVID paperwork, which is very, very, very minimal. So we're going to shift gears and hand it off to Michelle, who's going to cover this slide for us.
Perfect. So required COVID paperwork. I think this might just be what we cover every season now. So in case there is an exposure, you're going to want to notify your team members immediately, and then just make sure that you're doing the proper practices and making sure that everybody is notified on that. Then you would notify someone with Special Olympics Colorado, if that is your regional manager, reach out to them, make sure that we are aware of that exposure so that we can take the proper precautions that we need to do. If you guys have been coaching with us during the COVID years, we had a few different forms. The only form that you're going to be using now moving forward is going to be the communicable disease waiver. They sign it once and then you send it into your regional manager after their first practice. If they've already signed it during the COVID years or recently, then they are good to go. They do not need to sign that again.
It's only for new participants.
Yes, new participants. And then there used to be a team sign-in sheet. We do not utilize that. We do not require you to. However, if you feel like it's useful, feel free to keep track of who's at your practices. Okay. All right. So we have lots of different things that we are asking coaches to do, as well as our athletes and parents and caregivers. So we wanted to make sure we talked about what register means versus athlete application versus Class A versus entry forms, because they all are very different. So when we say register, we're referring to seasonal registration, which a lot of you guys are pretty familiar with now. It is sports specific and it is preseason. So we open it up for coaches to put their intent in about 2 to 3 months ahead of the season. And then we open it for coaches to register for their teams, and then for their athletes and the unified partners to register for those teams. So that's what we mean when we say register or seasonal registration. We are not requiring for everyone to do that. However, it is very helpful if you guys do that, so that you have all the information that you need moving forward into the season, which just makes it much easier on you, on us, and the athletes and partners. Athlete application and the Class A. If people fill out seasonal registration, that does not replace their athlete application or their Class A or background check. We still require them to be done every 3 years. So you might get notification that your team needs to renew them, or if you have new individuals on your team, that they will need to complete those. And then lastly, the competition entry forms. I think we've had some confusion between the seasonal registration versus the entry forms. They are different. However, there are some team sports that we are piloting to fit onto your shared roster from seasonal registration. So if you're part of that sport, we'll reach out to you and let you know how to do that. If you are not, the entry forms are still something that you need to turn in. List out everybody on your team, including all the coaches as well, and unified partners and athletes, so that we can best plan for the competitions ahead.
Great. I'm gonna pause here. There were a couple questions in the chat that are popping up. Somebody monitoring those?
Sure. Salvador from Grand Junction works for the Grand Junction Regional Center, and they have their own product protocols that they follow for, I think, weather was what we were talking about at this point.
That's great. Yeah, follow your own protocols if you have any from the agency that you work for.
Yeah, and also a medical team that dictates whether the weather is too hot or cold. So they have their own protocols to also follow, which those, if you're working and running the program through that program, I would follow those for sure if they conflict. Kathy also asked, do you want incident reports for jammed fingers and other minor injuries, or just major ones?
I would say if it requires medical attention, let us know. We will move on. So a couple of things that we've updated recently as far as the way we are communicating with you and all of our participants, athletes, unified partners, around expiration dates. So we've over the last 6 months, we've been implementing a lot more notification processes. You guys may have already seen some of those, and how we alert people about their upcoming expiration dates. So we are alerting all of our participants 60 days prior to their upcoming expiration, of just alerting them that they need to renew their athlete application or their Class A. So they're receiving that by email from Special Olympics Colorado 60 days prior to their expiration coming up, and then also 1 year prior to their expiration, just to give them that advance notice as they're planning any upcoming medical visits. In addition to that, anybody who completes our season registration process will also be alerted of their athlete application expiration date or Class A expiration date in advance of the season by way of a confirmation email that they will receive the week of completing their season registration. And then also an additional alert going into the team announcement period once we've completed all of our rostering and have introduced all of our participants to their coaches for that upcoming season. So we're providing all of our clients, all of our constituents, a variety of different ways that we're alerting them of their upcoming athlete and Class A expiration dates. And we're doing that in an effort to alleviate some of or a lot of the burden that you all feel going into the competition season when we do the inevitable scramble around trying to get everybody's athlete applications and Class A's completed once we've received all of the entry forms. So we're communicating all of their expiration dates, with much more advanced notice, and putting the responsibility back on our constituents so that they can be prepared going into the season. So with that, we are implementing a firm scratch deadline going into this fall season. So what this looks like, moving forward, after entry forms are submitted for regional competitions, instead of us providing you a list of people who need to complete their athlete applications in Class A's, we will be communicating a scratch list of people who will not be able to participate in that competition. Our expectation moving forward is that all athletes and unified partners, coaches, will have updated and completed paperwork prior to being submitted on an entry form. We are communicating this with you guys going into the season by way of our shared rosters, which we'll go into a little bit more detail here and as the call advances, and providing you going into the season a full list of everybody on your roster and where they currently stand with their paperwork reports. Over the past couple of seasons, we've seen a tremendous decrease in the number of people reflected on these expiration lists that we've typically been accustomed to utilizing during a regional and state competition period. And a lot more people are completing these athlete applications far in advance and going into our competition season. So on our end, it's important that all participants who are actively engaged in competition and practices have active paperwork on file with us at the beginning of the season, going into the competition period and going into the practice period. In the event of an injury or something were to happen to an individual at practice, if they do not have active paperwork on file with us, we are not able to provide them with support as they go through their medical treatment. So as they're receiving medical care, anybody who does have an athlete application or Class A on file with us will be connected with our insurer, and they will be able to work with them on coverage for some of their medical expenses. If they do not have active paperwork on file, we are not able to do that for them. So we are strongly encouraging everybody to have that paperwork on file going into the season. So just to reiterate, going forward, that is a requirement for all athletes and unified partners, coaches going into the season. Upon submitting your entry forms, everybody who's entered into the competition will have to have that athlete application Class A on file with us. We will notify you after that entry period, within 1 week of receiving your entries, that these are the list of people who are ineligible to participate in the competition. So we're encouraging more advance notice from us and of you guys informing us of any participants who are new to your team, so we can alert you as early as possible of that expiration date for the individual.
Melissa had a great question, and she was asking, what do we do if we have walk-in athletes or athletes who don't register? So just to reiterate, we're going to give you guys a shared roster that you will go ahead and type those names in. You would send us an email to let us know who they are, and then we would go in and add the information that we have and let you know if they need to update or whatever they need.
Yeah, a variety of opportunities for us to alert you guys. One is that shared roster. That is our preferred means of communication. So completing, adding anybody who's new to your team or comes to you organically, not through our channels, adding them to that roster so we can provide you with that expiration date. If you ever have a question, feel free to ask your regional manager. We're also happy to provide you with that details as early as possible. And then we'll cover it here in a second as we shift to Elizabeth, but really encouraging your participants, all your athletes and unified partners, to go through our season registration process and complete our fall season registration so that we capture them through our system and we could provide you guys with all this information of where they stand with their expiration dates with as much notice as possible. So any other questions before we advance here? Great. Now I'm going to kick it to Elizabeth, who's going to elaborate a little bit more on that season registration information.
Awesome. So fall registration for athletes, unified partners, and then a couple bullet points down, you'll see that we also have coach registration for assistant coaches. That form or those forms are open until August 6th. So we're actively collecting registration right now. Team announcement emails will be sent to athletes, unified partners, and coaches by Friday, August 18th. So between the 6th and the 18th, we'll be communicating with you about your roster, making sure that it's good to go, and then regional managers send an email to everybody on your roster and include you on there with your contact information, practice information, next steps, and everything. And those emails will go out by Friday, August 18th. Like I mentioned, a new step of the process this season is implementing a coach registration for assistant coaches. So this is separate from the team registration that you've already submitted, saying that your team's coming back, what kind of needs you have, when your practices are starting, if you need more athletes, if you can take more partners. That process is done. And then coach registration for assistant coaches is similar to the athletes and partners step, where we're trying to get all of their contact information into that shared roster. And then we can, like Adrian was just mentioning, we can look up their Class A status and make sure that we're communicating that with them directly as well, because we have their contact information, and then we're not relying just on the head coaches and program coordinators to be following up about that paperwork. We're able to notify them directly. So definitely encourage all of your assistant coaches to fill it out. If you're in communication with any coaches who are interested in becoming a coach with your team, that's a great place to send them as well. And then we can work to get them prepared for joining your team. So it's a new step. So it's another thing to encourage your assistant coaches, but getting them on that, the shared roster list as early as possible so that we can get them going with paperwork. Soon you should be receiving a link to your shared roster from your regional manager. So all of those have been created and we're in the process of sending those out over the next week or two. If you need it sooner, definitely reach out, but that's our process over the next couple of weeks. Please remember when we do send out that team announcement email, especially when there's new people being added to your roster, introduce yourself, reply to the email, tell them how excited you are to start the season, open it up for questions. If there's any additional contact information that wasn't included in the email or any practice details or anything like that that you want to add to what we have, definitely encourage you to do that. Once we send that team placement email or team announcement email, you are their new point of contact for that team, for that sport. We've made sure that they have their athlete application on file and that they have those resources before sending them to you. And of course, if you need support with securing practice locations, contacting athletes, finding new coaches, reach out to your regional manager. Even if it wasn't something that you put on your team registration initially and someone that you thought was coming back isn't coming back, you need more assistant coaches, we can always add that to our list. So please don't feel like what you registered on the team registration is the only information that you can share with us.
I got a question.
Sure.
I've got athletes that did not do summer at all this year because I couldn't do summer
Sure.
for coaching them. So anyway, we're getting back into it for the bowling, and we've sent out announcements and stuff. I've had one lady call me up to tell her she's got 2 athletes that they hadn't played before, which is no big deal. But we won't even have a list for anybody till we know who's going to show up on the first practice. That all our people are, most of them, 90% of them are not in regular households like my son. They're in homes and all that stuff. And those people, if they don't call me back, I don't have any recourse.
Sure.
So we just do the best we can do, and I'm not gonna even have a list of players until the 9th of August.
Sure. So one way that we can do that is we can use last year's roster and put everybody in there, check on their paperwork, and then we can always have you add anybody else who shows up to practice that wasn't already on there. So it can be, there can be more people on the roster than you know for sure. The roster doesn't become the competition entry form until after the first couple practices. So it's a working document where we can work off of the roster, and you can work with your regional manager to just put everyone that could you think could show up, even if they haven't called you back, put their first name, last name, birthday, and that's all we need to start looking up their paperwork to start the season.
All right, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, good question though. That's
Thank you.
there's if there are athletes who miss the seasonal registration deadline for filling out the form themselves, the next step or the ongoing step even during that process is for the coach to just manually add them to that roster link.
That's what I'm gonna have to do with
Yeah.
most of them. I'm gonna have to do myself.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna have to sit down with them and hopefully get somebody that can give me answers.
Sure, yeah, and mostly what we're asking for, like bare minimum on there, just to have a running list and to help you with keeping track of everybody's contact information in one spot is just first name, last name, birthday, and then a
Yeah, we
phone
got that.
number. Yeah, phone number or an email address or both, whichever one you have on that
All
list.
right.
It's really the main stuff. So
Yeah, most of my athletes' emails will be coming to me
sure,
because they don't have emails and their staff don't really care about that. They don't want their email out. So if you'll find a bunch of mine's got the same email address and they're my email.
sure.
Yeah, Glenn.
That's the
So
way it
at,
is.
at that point, it would just be you and I that would really be talking back and forth to make sure you know exactly what you need in order to bring them to the regional and have all of their certifications in. So you and I can certainly sit down and do that when the time comes.
Sounds good.
Great questions, go on.
Hey,
Thank you.
hey, Michelle, or
Mhm.
anybody. This is Sal Ramos from Grand Junction. Anyways, I don't know that we can be on a shared roster with their birthdays. A lot of our stuff is protected by HIPAA, and so birthdays are part of HIPAA for us. So I don't know that I can put birthdays for my individuals.
Okay, so in that situation, when we send you the seasonal roster, since we are not HIPAA, it would be up to you to delete those date of births after we have sent you that shared roster. And then it would be up to you to add those date of births when you turn in the entry forms. So if you're a
Right.
little worried about having it on an Excel form, you can just delete those.
Okay.
And then just make sure to add them on the entry form when you turn that in.
Okay. All right.
Looks like we had a couple questions in the chat while I was going through that too. Marissa asked if there's still a new coach orientation once you register. That's something that we are fine tuning currently, but the quick answer is yes. There is a new coach. We've switched it to being a season specific new coach interest Zoom call for those that are interested in learning more about it. But what's required is going to be that level 1 coach orientation that they complete online. It's a self-guided training. And then the class A and the background check. So Marissa, if that doesn't answer your question, please unmute or type in the chat, and I'm happy to elaborate on that as well. Craig said that he is worried about knowing whether we're confirmed for competitions and all athletes are okay to participate and where they can access that information so they don't get turned away. So Craig, this is exactly this slide right here. Hopefully will answer that question. This is where we're going to have a live access to what's currently on file. So if this doesn't answer your question, Craig, please type again in the chat. And then I guess, Marissa, you also asked if you need to get the new coach call done before the athlete application. I kind of answered it, but doing the pre-season new coach orientation or the new coach interest call, we've kind of rebranded it because it's less of an orientation and more of just an interest gathering of the different levels of coaching. So we'll share a little bit more about that. Or Adrian, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that piece of it, or Denise, since I saw you on here.
I was gonna say, this is Marissa here. I got that email that you guys sent, and it gave me that step-by-step of what I needed to do. So it was that registration, and then the step 2 was to do the orientation. But once I got to the orientation page, it said page was not found. And so I couldn't really move past that. And then I came across that application A, or
Yeah,
what
class
you
A.
called
Yep.
it.
Mhm.
And it told me that I couldn't fill that out until I did my orientation. So I kind of
Gotcha.
got stuck in figuring out what I
Yeah.
needed to do.
So I
No
think
worries,
the
Marissa.
orientation
I'll
link.
jump in here real quick.
Oh.
So Marissa, we'll if you don't mind dropping your email here in the chat, we'll connect with you offline and workshop that with you and get you to where you need to go.
Okay, that works.
Yep, thank you.
I think it was just an old link that took you to an old page, probably an old resource. But yeah, if you send us your information, we can get that to you pretty easy. Kyle, it looks like you're answering Tammy's question, but I'll answer it out loud as well. Those shared rosters, SoCo staff have access to them, and then the individual team rosters, unless the link is shared somewhere else, you have to have the link to have access to it. It's not a universal thing. So other people do not have access to it unless they get the link, which they shouldn't. So I want to get back to shared rosters. So with shared rosters, that's where we will communicate all athlete and class A application expiration dates. So anybody that's on the shared roster, regional managers are looking that up on a regular basis. And at the top of the shared roster, it'll say the last date that those dates were checked. So you'll have a relatively live version of the paperwork that's on file for everybody. And then when people submit their paperwork, you should also get a confirmation for athlete applications as long as they put your email on there. So I think we mentioned this a little bit before, but please add any participants who connect with you directly who didn't register with our form, whether that's during the time that the form is open or after it's closed on August 6th. And that's where we would then look up their paperwork expiration dates, meaning their athlete application and their class A. That's when we're talking about paperwork. That's what we're referring to. We're going to start utilizing these shared rosters as the competition entry forms. So we're moving away from using those PDF versions that everybody knows on our competitions page, with the goal of shared rosters is where all the information is, and then you don't have to transfer all of that information onto then the PDF to submit. We're going to add, or we have added, columns towards the end of the shared roster document that once the season is started, you can start entering in all their scores, their events, and it's a live document that we can see. Once it's ready, we'll save it, and that's your entry form. So it just skips the step of transferring everything over. Everything lives in the shared roster there. So that'll be a newer thing this season, and the regional managers and competitions team and coach development manager is all here for support with that. Jumping into,
Excuse me,
Yeah.
what about the people that participate at practice but never go to competitions? I'm
sure,
gonna have like 10 extra people on my shared roster, so how are you gonna know if they're going to a competition or not?
Yep. So one of the columns on there is, are they competing? Yes or no. So you put a yes for the people that are and a no for the people that aren't. And then we only enter the people that have a yes next to them.
Well, then how do I
We're gonna
do
cover
the
this here in
scores?
a few minutes as we get into how to complete your
Okay.
entry form. So we'll cover that here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. So fall season timeline, today, July 19th, we have the fall season coaches call. August 6th, like I mentioned before, that's when our registration is going to close for athlete, unified partners, and assistant coaches. August 17th and 18th, that's when the regional managers are finalizing team placements with you as the coaches and sending out our announcement emails to everybody on the team and introducing them to you, or reintroducing them to you. And then on August 28th, that's when our summer season officially starts and teams will hold the first week of practices. The week of September 11th is when regional managers will do a final check-in with coaches on paperwork status for teams using those shared rosters for the season. So definitely have that marked on your calendar for a time that we'll be communicating a little bit more heavily about those paperwork statuses, and that will hopefully help guide you with then filling it out as the entry form. And yes, it should say fall. Sorry, John. We have a lot of duplicated slides from previous seasons and easy to miss those seasons. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate all the questions that we're getting. Just for the sake of time, we're gonna try to jump into our competition information. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll happily connect with you guys all at the end. We'll stay on long after we complete all of our slides and answer any questions that you guys have remaining. So with that, we're going to jump into our young athletes overview. So Mandy, floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Again, my name is Mandy. I'm the Senior Director of our Young Athletes. I'm pretty sure I know quite a few of you guys. For those of you that do not know me yet or know much about Young Athletes, we just like to get on every coach's call and give you kind of a quick little overview of what Young Athletes is. And then if you guys are interested in serving this population or finding out more about it, you can reach out to me after the call. So obviously our traditional athletes have to be 8 years of age or older to officially start competing. I'm sure some of you guys work with that 8+ age group, but we just want you to be aware that there is also an opportunity that we call our young athletes, which is kids under the age of 8, where we have started working with them on creating young athlete teams within each season, where again, kids under the age of 8 can start working on being introduced to all the different sports that we have and working on developing their sport skills within each sport and socializing and just really welcoming them and their families kind of to Special Olympics and giving them a kind of a ground level opportunity to start again getting involved and getting connected with teams. So again, these are non-competitive teams, but we do try to streamline them with as much detail and similarities as our other teams. So these young athletes do register using the seasonal registration forms. We collect rosters and all of that as well. So again, if you guys are interested, we do have a handful of bowling teams as well as some flag football teams that we're trying to get started this fall. I know on the seasonal registration, you guys have the option to select whether or not you are currently serving these kiddos, this age group, or if you're interested or have the capacity to start working with this young age group. So if you guys didn't indicate that on your seasonal registration and you're interested in more information and would be willing to also open up your teams to some of these younger kids and getting them connected, you can reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat as well. Or if you just want more information about young athletes, maybe for a different season or a different sport, I would love to connect with you guys. But really our ultimate goal here is to really, like I said, streamline with our existing teams and programs. We've had a lot of great success with kind of helping support you guys by finding additional coaches to help with these younger teams, but really giving them kind of that model of being part of a bigger program to where our young athletes can see older athletes on their same team and really kind of create that pipeline of connection within our traditional teams and programs. So again, if you guys have any questions, I will put my email in the chat. But we are looking for bowling and flag football coaches that would start working with the 4 to 7s as well in like a developmental model. So thank you guys for having me. Again, I'll put my email in there and please email with any questions about the under 8 category.
All right, and now we'll kick it over to Casey, who's going to talk about all of our upcoming health opportunities.
Hi, everyone. I'm Casey Torbett. I'm the Health and Wellness Manager. Usually Jenna Tweet, our Senior Inclusive Health Manager, is on these calls and runs all of our healthy athletes. So I'm filling in for her today. But we just want to talk about the upcoming MedFest opportunities we have for the fall season. And so we have one in the Denver region, one in the Northeast, and one in the Western region. So we have one in Longmont on September 16th. And you can find that sign up link on the bit.ly right there. And then September 30th, we have one at Rocky Vista University for the Denver region. And also December 9th in Grand Junction. And so between the Longmont and the Rocky Vista, you can come to either of them, whatever works. You don't have to stay in just your region, but just wanted to let you guys know about all of those. So if you have athletes that have some expiring physicals, these are a great way to do it, to sign up for free, so we can get those done for you. Okay, and so we will also be having 2 Healthy Athletes events during the fall season. Both will be at our state events. So we have our Fit Feet coming up at our state flag football on November 4th, and then Strong Minds at state volleyball on November 18th. And so those screenings will tentatively go from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So feel free to come and bring your athletes so we can make sure they come through. Then now you can change it. This year, especially this fall season, we are launching a new Healthy Athletes, which is really cool. It's called Healthy Young Athletes. So we will be doing that on Sunday, September 10th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. At an elementary school in Greeley. So our Healthy Young Athletes is a free holistic pediatric screening, and it's offered to children between the ages of 2 and 9 years old, with and without intellectual disabilities or developmental disabilities. It entails a comprehensive medical assessment, including vision, audio, dental screenings, and what's also really cool is that it has a developmental surveillance and also a physical exam. So you can encourage any parents that you have with young athletes to come and go through this screening, and it's way more comprehensive and made for our young athletes and younger age athletes to come through than our normal screenings. So feel free, we'll send this out as well since it's separate from competitions, but just wanted to put it on the coach's radar. So in addition to the Healthy Athletes, we'll also be doing performance stations. And they will be at our Western Regional Flag Football on September 30th, our Denver Regional Flag Football on October 14th, and then our Northeast Regional Flag Football as well. I believe we'll be doing our, actually we're kind of determining which ones we'll be doing, but feel free to come out and check those out with your athletes to get great health tips for their game performance. Also, for our last health thing for competitions, we have our Health for All kits. So any of the competitions that weren't listed between Healthy Athletes events and our performance stations will include our Health for All kits. So at awards, the athletes will receive this kit and it'll contain some health education materials as long as some cool giveaways. And so for the fall, we have these awesome logoed thermoses that will be given out, sleep masks, tea, lavender sort of giveaway, really cool star giveaway as well, and an informational handout. It looks like we'll probably only be doing this at regional bowling, and since we only have a limited amount, it might not be at all at the regional bowling. So hopefully you can get your athletes to have some. But I think that's all I have on my end. Oh, we have one more thing. So in addition to our health stuff, we also have our Fitness Captain program. Hopefully most of you have heard of this. If you haven't, it is basically an extended leadership position for athletes who are really interested in health and fitness. And their role is to help you as coaches warm up and cool down the team before and after competitions and practice. So if you have athletes on your team that are naturally great leaders or are interested in having a leadership position on your team, that are interested in fitness, this is a great way. Hopefully want athletes that have a positive influence on their team, are really dependable and great sportsmen, and just are really able to effectively communicate. So if you're interested or know of athletes, you can nominate them. So if you want to flip to the next slide. This is how you nominate them. All you have to do is send an email to socofitnesscaptain@specialolympicsco.org. I run the program, so I will be answering these emails. But all you need is the athlete's name, their contact information if you have it, preferably email, but phone number works as well. Ever teams that you know of that they're on, especially yours, and the sports that they play. And then we really like just a brief reason for why you think they might be a great fitness captain, or a great leader on your team. Just because we like to tell them this when we send the introductory email that, you know, their coach thinks very highly of them and all of this. So if you have athletes that you think would fit this role, please let us know. And if you have any questions, you can also send it to that email as well. But
Awesome.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, Casey. And now as we move along, we're going to hand it off to the portion of the call that everybody's excited to hear about. So we're going to hand it off to Susan and team to talk about our fall season. Susan.
Sweet. All right. Well, we are excited to be getting into the fall season. As you guys may or may not know, our typical sports we offer in the fall are bowling, flag football, and volleyball. We also offer the triathlon, so it's not necessarily a formal sport that we offer, but we do have many athletes that compete in the Littlefoot Triathlon in Bear Creek Lake Park. That's going to be on September 9th. So if you guys have athletes that are interested in that, let me know. If you have athletes that maybe aren't interested in that in this year, let me know, and then we can kind of make sure we get them ready for next year. At this point, our group is pretty small, so we just pair up with another triathlon and work with them on there. But basically over here, you'll see all the competitions we have coming up. September 30th will be our Western Flag Football event. We've also noted on there if there's going to be young athletes taking place at those events, so you guys can see that. And then that very first column is the entry deadline column as well. So we're going to review the entry forms with you guys when we talk per sport, but that stuff that the sooner you guys get that stuff to us, the sooner we can turn around schedules, paperwork reports, just kind of all the finalized information as best we can to get out to you guys as well. So we appreciate everyone doing their best to stick to those deadlines. Quick thing on that, like for example, that Craig bowling, that might be a little bit early. You might not have scores yet at that time. That's okay. If you can let us know what athletes are in what events, then we'll be good. And right, so in bowling, they can pick only one event. So if you just go through your seasonal roster, and again, we'll touch on this, and select that I'm going to be in singles and scores are to be determined, we can get scores once we get closer. It's more important at this point for entry forms and kind of jumping ahead that we have name, date of birth, and the events they're actually in as well. So you can kind of take a look down into the events that we have. We will be hosting a bowling in each region. At this point, we'll just be hosting a flag football in the Northeast region, the Denver region, and the Western region. Southeast teams, pending the number you guys have and how the competition looks out, we can look into tossing that in there as well. So Kyle and I will work together similar to how we did for softball on that. But at this point, the Southeast teams will be going up to the Denver flag football event, or you're more than welcome to go up to the Fort Collins Northeast event if that works better for you as well. Our state flag football event is going to be November 24th. You'll notice there's no entry deadline in there. We don't need you to resubmit anything. Just a reminder, anyone that plays that is going to plan to play at state has to play at regionals. So we know there's sometimes where there's certain exceptions of things that come up. And we will be sharing a form with you guys if that's the case, like if there's an illness, various things along those lines. We'll share a form with you that you guys will fill out, and then our team will review that with the regional managers to make sure we approve or kind of disapprove of that as well. So after regional events, basically the way it'll work for flag football will be, we'll send you rosters, you'll approve them, and then we'll move on to start to schedule for the flag football event as well. Kind of mid-November, we're going to be hosting a powerlifting invite. I don't know if we have any powerlifting coaches on here, but that is going to be a new event we're going to be hosting. It's going to be kind of a unified event. So coaches are going to be able to participate as well as athletes, which will be kind of a neat inclusive event as well. And then there'll be state bowling and state volleyball taking place on November 18th. As a note, we're not hosting a regional volleyball, just a state volleyball. So entries to that will be due October 2nd. For state bowling, there will be allocations that will be shared mid-October. So for anyone that's new, basically all that means is typically for most of our sports, anyone who competes in regionals can attend state. Bowling is one of our biggest sports. So we have actually made some changes where we have gone, I'm jumping ahead and stealing what Kara's going to cover, but we're bowling fewer games so we can host more people at state. So we will most likely have an allocation shared out with you. And basically what we do is we take a long formula of math. If anyone's interested in hearing it, I'm happy to bore you with the details of it. But we kind of take the total of all the bowlers we have and we divvy out percentage wise of which regions and which teams kind of get what. So basically, if you have a team of, 50 out of 100 that are wanting to come to state, those are all fake numbers, but easy math for me to do, you'll have 50% of who's coming. So, we can talk through that more as we need to. We can talk through that at events. I know some coaches kind of don't have as many people who come to state, so things kind of shift around, but we try to make that as fair as possible across the board. But you guys will get that stuff in mid-October, and then we'll finalize with you after each bowling event as well. And then I think it looks like it's a little bit left off, but November 19th is actually a Young Athletes Day over at the bowling alley as well. I don't know why they don't want to be in our massive, crazy bowling alley where we fit 500 and some plus athletes through the day. But so if you have some young athletes that are bowling, that'll be the following day in there as well. So any questions on the schedule itself before I jump into this piece? Sweet. Cool. Okay. Just a few reminders about sportsmanships. We do have a couple of team sports coming up in the fall season. And we know our team sports can get kind of heated as well. There are some slides a little bit later on about codes of conduct. So we'll cover that a little bit more, but please just take time to review what's expected of teams at the season. As a head coach, it's your job to review that with your assistant coaches, with the partners and with the athletes as well. And I think any chance you have the opportunity to enforce these codes at practice, even if it's something that's a small event that, could become a bigger thing, that's really helpful for when we get to the competition pieces as well. And then just a note that any infractions of codes can result in some consequences from the disciplinary committee as well. The competition page is up on our website as well. We can hop over to that if you want to. Believe what you'll have to do at this point, since we're pretty heavy in the summer season, is the summer season is going to come up first. So you'll kind of have to scroll through all of that. And then we've got the fall season here signified just with that graphic change. So everything over here on the left-hand side is all of our information for our sports. Those are all the resources and entry forms, rules. It's always good to hop on and check out the SoCo rule interps. Basically what we do, that's kind of the biggest thing you need. If there's something that's in there that's not covered, then you can hop down to the Special Olympics International rules. But what we tried to do, the Special Olympics International rules are amazing, but they can get a little bit lengthy for those of you who have decided to read it fully. So what we've done is we've pulled out the Special Olympics Colorado rules that we feel to be the most important. And we've done that for each sport. So that document looks a little bit different than the Special Olympics North America one, but it'll cover the basics of everything that you should need to know. Again, if something's not covered in here, then we go to the SOI rules, or you can reach out to us as the competition team to answer any questions on that as well. Okay. Fabulous. And events. Sorry, just if you can go back for 1 second, Adrian. Events will actually be on the right-hand side over there, or you can always go to the event calendar and scroll down to find where the dates are. So if you scroll up to the summer season, Adrian, you guys can see the events are over here. So we'll make sure that those are up there for the fall season once that becomes a little bit more upfront and on top of everyone's mind. And that stuff will all be over there. And then if you click on that actual event right there, it will take you, yep. It should. Are you able to click on it?
I clicked on it. It's just my computer.
Yeah, there we go. I was gonna say it was just taking a while. It'll take you directly to the event page. And on this event page, we've actually discussed recently, we're going to make this a little more robust for you guys. We'll have some start times, general schedule information, some frequently asked questions that we'll be adding to some of these pages as well. So stay tuned for some of those pieces also on there. And with that, I will turn it over to Kara, who will cover bowling.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. So just some fun stuff about bowling. As Susan kind of mentioned, we're going to be allocating spots for state bowling. And for our regional and state competitions, we're going to be doing 2 games at both the regional and state competition. We're going to be playing with a league style play for those of you that are new. So if you're not familiar with that, with ours, there'll be alternating lanes after each frame, unless they're ramp bowling, which they will change lanes after that first game, unless they're doing singles bowling or with the team. Is that correct, Susan? Okay. And then they'll change after each frame for ramp. So that they'll stay in that lane for that whole game if they're doing singles, and then if they're doing doubles and team, then they'll switch like the other teams with the alternating lanes. Again, if you're arriving late, you'll be blinded for those first 3 frames, and then we will do your total score after how many frames are completed, should your first 3 frames be blinded. Those adaptive balls can be used during a competition. Go to the next one. In our doubles, you are not allowed to add an alternate, but you can in team, and that includes a unified or athlete participant to be an alternate. You must wear bowling shoes unless they are wheelchair athlete, or that there is a medical reason for them not to be able to. The assisted ramp bowlers can receive assistance by placing the ball on the ramp, but they must be able to push that on their own. And unassisted must be able to place that ball on the ramp themselves and push it themselves. And just a reminder, we will not be using bumpers during competition, so might want to practice that or work on that as well during practices. And then finally on that, there's a link below. We're trying to limit access because of the space that the athletes and the teams are on the lane. So we want to make sure that it's just athletes unless absolutely necessary for coaches to have to be on the lane to assist. We know that the ramp bowlers are a little bit different and do require more assistance from the coaches, and that's where the lane access may be needed. But if we can limit the amount of coaches that go on the lanes because of the amount of space, there is a form to fill out just to let us know why a lane access pass may be needed for coaches. So, and I'll put that in the chat as well after I'm done.
There was a question in the chat while Adrian pulls this up. Do we need to provide medical proof that an athlete cannot wear bowling shoes, and how would they do that?
That's a great question. I believe most of the time that they would need to provide a doctor's note or some sort of proof why they would not be able to wear bowling shoes. So yes. All right, so many of you guys may have seen this if you've done sports in other seasons. like softball. We've done it for softball and soccer so far. This is the first time we're going to be using it for an individual sport. This is your seasonal roster that you would get. It has all your information. The top 3 lines are usually the coach information or the program coordinator. And then the rest is your athletes or unified partners on your roster. And then the information to the right in the red is all the competition information. So up above that red line, there'll be a drop down menu for what event you're going to be attending. These are just for the regional events. And then, like we said, the allocations will come later on for state competition. And then whether you're going to be attending state, yes or no. There's only 2 questions that you'll have to answer above. And then all the other questions, the event type is a drop-down menu for whether you're doing single, double, or a team competition. And then you can manually enter your thank you. Just playing with it. Your manually enter your 5-game average. That's just what we just ask so that we can division everybody properly. And then whether they're a wheelchair athlete, yes or no. And then if they are a ramp bowler, whether they're assisted or unassisted. And then if it's a team, what their team name is. And then for double, we usually ask that you put your like the last names of the 2 people that are going to be playing with playing on the same doubles team. Thank you, Adrian. And then the team is only if there's an alternate going to be a 5th or an alternate going to be placed on that team. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys. And I know it's a lot of additional information that's put on there, but it'll help us make sure you guys have the best competition possible. So.
If just to expand here, if you don't have any, if like somebody's on your roster and they're not going to be attending the competition, just leave it blank. You don't have to add anything for them. We won't add them into the competition if there's no information provided for them. Also, just want to highlight these columns here, columns D and E. These are where we're going to notify you guys of the individual's application statuses. So anybody who's noted in red are people that are missing or have expired applications on file with us. Everybody else who is just white are cleared for competition. So we will be alerting you guys and making these edits going into the season as well.
Can I just add that even if the number or the date is white, if it expires before state, they still need to renew it before state. So if you notice a date, it's like 10/18, they'll be good for regionals, but you need to flag that for state to make sure that they're good to go for that. So the format doesn't turn it a different color. You kind of have to catch it, but we can also work on that.
And to answer your question, Tammy, we're trying to make this as easy as possible. So with all the information already provided on these rosters, we're just trying to make it easier for you not to do double work of entering the additional entry form. They are still going to be available online should you want to do it that way, but this is just a secondary way that we are trying to make it easy as possible for you guys. So
great. Thanks, Kara. We'll move it along and jump into flag football.
Fantastic. Okay. Just a few things on flag football. There are no big changes from last year. Athletes, if you have athletes on your team who use wheelchairs or walkers, please reach out to myself so we can discuss the guidelines. I think we had some great success in basketball in allowing that to happen, and so we'd like to be able to make that work in flag football as well. There just might be a few more pieces we need to look into. So if you have any athletes who use wheelchairs or walkers, please reach out to us ahead of time. That doesn't mean like 2 days before regionals. That means like ahead of time when you're practicing, so we can make sure that we get everything squared away to ensure the safety of everybody in that situation. We offer a competition in traditional team sport, which is all athletes unified, which is athletes and unified partners, and the Combine Challenge. The Combine Challenge is our skills competition, which has various skills to compete in. And anyone can test their skills when you're at the event. So we know that we have certain athletes that are just competing in that Combine Skills Challenge, but throughout the day, we'll have it set up. So if you have your team and they want to go see who has the highest vertical jump, they're more than welcome to go over and do that at that point, just to build up a little bit of fun camaraderie and such within your team as well. Okay. Back to our traditional and unified teams. Teams are divisioned by the type and age groups as best as possible, as well as their levels. Please just keep in mind that the age of the team is determined by the oldest person on the team, as well as if they are in an adult team, no one over the age of 16 will be permitted to play. It's kind of just the rule that we've had in place for a while. You guys are pretty familiar with that. If you have questions about that, you guys can reach out to us on that as well. In that
Susan, can you
case.
just expand real quick on the age groups?
Yep. So in an ideal world, basically there are a whole variety of age groups within Special Olympics. The main ones we look for on our teams are 8 to 15, 16 to 21, and 22 and older. There are certain times where we might not have any competition for a 16 to 21-year-old team, in which case they'll play up. In an ideal world, we would have some 8 to 11 teams and 12 to 15 teams as well. But the groups themselves, as of right now, are 8 to 15, 16 to 21, 22 and up. If we are asking you to play outside your age group, we're reaching out to you beforehand in regards to that, just to ensure that you're aware of that. As long as we're kind of going through the entry form, which I'll get to on the next couple of slides, correctly, and you guys are rating your team correctly, hopefully that the age group of moving the 16-year-olds up wouldn't be a big deal. We won't move an 8 to 15 team up if we're at a tournament and we have an 8 to 15 team and we don't have anyone else for them to play. We'll most likely have them either scrimmage against themselves or have them move on to the Combine Skills Challenge. We're just far too concerned about the safety at that point to have an 8-year-old on the field with a 35-year-old. So as far as just a couple of rules to take place, snaps. The snap can be snapped between the center's legs or to the side, so either option works, and that was a new rule added last year, so just wanted to reiterate that. And all passes need to be behind the line of scrimmage. A pass in front of that will be considered a down as well. And then a reminder in unified play, another piece we'll get to just in regards to meaningful involvement, but in unified play, a pass does need to involve both an athlete and a unified partner. Handoffs, however, can be a combination of any players on the team. We do ask that you don't take advantage of that. I think at some point, if we see partner-to-partner handoffs to kind of take control of the game, we'll be probably having a conversation on meaningful involvement in that sense. So we just ask that you, in unified play, keep in mind, and this goes for volleyball as well, just keep in mind the spirit of the game and the flow of the game and meaningfully involving the athletes who are involved in the game as well.
I just wanted to point out we had a typo on the slide. So it says on adult teams, no athletes over the age of 16 will be permitted to play. That's under the age of 16.
Correct. Way to pay attention. You get cookies for that one. You caught it.
All right. Moving on.
Just a few notes on equipment and uniform guidelines. So each offensive player has to wear one quick release belt without any knots at the waistline, with 3 flags showing, one on the side, one in the center, one on each side, and one in the back. The belts must be spring-loaded clip without detachable flags. If you have questions on that, just reach out to us and we can connect you with the right link. The triple threat flag football belts, sorry, that felt like a tongue twister there. Those are the best ones to go with at that point. If you have athletes that are of larger sizes and we end up sewing them together or tying a few together or combining it, at that point we have to make sure only 3 flags are showing. So if you have questions on that, just reach out to myself or the competition team and we can talk through that as well. When playing, please make sure athletes don't have shorts on pockets. In addition, shorts have to be different color than flags. So if you have red shorts, don't have red flags, have the yellow flags or a different color at that point. If there are shorts with pockets, they must be taped as well. So we'll be providing duct tape for each field, but if you can just get ahead of the game and avoid shorts with pockets altogether, that would be fantastic. No blue jeans or hats with hard brims can be worn. Numbers must be on the front of the back, and we'll use an intermediate size football as well. I think next up is the entry form that we can go to. And again, I feel like we've kind of bounced back and forth on what we need you guys to fill out. So we've decided to try to consolidate it as best as we can at this point. So for you'll have your roster here, you'll fill in kind of all the information Kara went over, which event you're going to be at, if you're attending state, if you're missing any players from last year, kind of noting what level you are as well. And then if you're stronger, equal, or weaker to last year, as we kind of look at some of those pieces as well to work on divisions. So this information on the left-hand side will all be pre-populated for you. So basically, sorry, like the athlete application, first name, last name, kind of that piece will all be already in there for you. So once we get down to it, you will be noting the competition team name on there. As well as then just that they're competing with the team and what their individual rating will be. So kind of that piece will be there. If you have a roster that has enough people to have 2 or 3 teams, that's how you'll note the difference of who's on which team in the competition team name section as well. And then we are asking you that you do rate each individual on your team, that is athletes and partners. So that kind of just helps us with when we're looking at all of our level 3 teams. If we have some level 3 teams that have a couple of athletes that are level 1, they're probably a little bit of a higher level 3. So we kind of look at that to balance all those pieces out as well. If you have athletes that are just competing in skills, there's that black line there, and then you'll just be noting that. So in that case, the competition team name, competing with team, yes or no, and the individual rating team, that stuff will all be left blank. And you will be putting in that they'll be competing in individual skills. Yeah, you can note that they're in skills there as well. And then if we have athletes who use wheelchairs, we can have that, and then the entry score will be in there as well. How to get the entry score? That's a good entry score. That looks like it's a DPR touchdowns with 7 Z's. How you get the entry score, all that information is going to be on the website. So when you go back over to the competition page, it'll give you a layout of what all the skills are. It'll give you a way to score them, a couple of quick cheat sheets on that, and then that's the total score that you will go ahead and be submitting. So yeah, if you want to, oh, yep, there we go. Perfect, right there, the cheat sheet and the combine individual scoring sheet. And this will talk you through how to do them all, and then at the very end, there'll be a scoring page as well on there. Okay. And then you'll submit the total score. You don't need to submit it for each skill we have there. Adrian, can you hop back to that competition page super quick? Right kind of in the middle there is a levels for rating teams form. So you can go ahead and click on this. This is what you'll read through to kind of see where you think your team will fall. You know, level 1's that general fast pace. Everybody's moving, everybody's shaking, and you know, the refs are calling that game closely and enforcing all the rules. Level 4 is a little bit slower, you know, and level 2 and 3 kind of fall in between there as well. And then this is also how you're going to be rating your players once you're looking at them as well. Okay. Any flag football questions?
Great.
I believe it is the intermediate size. But Tammy, I will pass things off to Corey for volleyball, and I will double check that for you and let you know.
Yeah, for flex, I can help you out with a football. We do use the intermediate. Some of them are Mark Jr., but I'm not sure who was asking that question. They can reach out to me directly. I have a couple good places that I get some cheap footballs from that are actually really good quality. So you can reach out to me though for footballs that way. So volleyball, we are excited again to partner with Elevation. We've worked with them now for a few years, and this is, I think, our third year in their new facility, which is an amazing state-of-the-art volleyball club. And we do have room for more teams, so we would like to grow it. So if you know other teams that are coming out, the events are offered are going to be traditional, unified, and the modified and skills. One kind of cool thing that did come up last year, I can't remember what team it was, but we did have a team that entered in skills, and it was their first time ever doing volleyball with us, and they vowed coming back next year to try to enter as a team and play a normal schedule. So if you guys have teams that you're not sure about, or athletes that they're not sure about volleyball, we do have the modified and skills division, which is really cool. And we get a lot of support from the Elevation Volleyball Club. The athletes from the club are actually doing a lot of the coaching and running of the skills. So you're getting instruction and help from people who know a heck of a lot more about volleyball than I do. So excited about that. The teams, we're going to division them same way as we do all the rest of the teams, by age, type, because we want to obviously have same age playing same age and same skill level playing same skill level. The team is determined by the oldest player on the team. The skills are going to be primarily, for the skills part, passing, setting. There will be some other ones involved that you can find on the competitions page as well. Modified volleyball is where the team came from last year. It's basically similar volleyball, but it's a little bit easier for some of the athletes who might be a little shy or a little bit hesitant. The court size is adjusted to smaller. We use a lower net. We also use a ball that's going to be a little bit softer and a little bit bigger, so it's not gonna be as painful or be as scary to some of those athletes who might be a little bit worried about that. I'll talk about the 3 serve roll here in a minute. My email is on that page. I team with Valerie Koenig, one of our GOC members, to run this event. You can email me any question you want about volleyball. If I can't answer it, I will reach out to Valerie, because she knows everything there is to know about volleyball. And I'm starting to get to where I'm pretty comfortable running and having a good time doing it. Just a few reminders, rules wise, nothing has changed from last year. We can do a service line adjustment, so we will move it up 10 feet from the end line from where service is. So this is just moved up for athletes who might have problems getting a little bit trouble getting the ball over the net. We won't move it any closer than that. And one thing they do is if you've declared to move up for that service line, you have to stay up there for the remainder of that serve. You can't go up and forth, or you can't start from back, hit one, doesn't go off the net. Well, I'm going to try another one, I'm going to move up. So once you declare, then you got to move up. Substitutions are not going to be what you would see on a volleyball TV, like you would see on TV. We go player for player. So if you pull a player out, that player must re-enter in the spot that they came out of. You can't pull a player out just because you want to try to get them to serve over and over again, which they will do a lot of times in the high school rules. The unified rules, the lineup consists of, I have to have at least 3 athletes on the court. The serving order and positions on the court at service shall be an alternate of athletes and partners. So you're going every other one. And this is back where that service rule comes into line. Once a server has scored 3 consecutive points, the team shall rotate to the next server. Just so if you got somebody who's got a hot hand and you keep sending bullets over the net, we don't want it to have one server decimate a team. We want to give other opportunities. So once an athlete who is serving scores 3 consecutive points, they will rotate to the next server. You'll still continue with the ball, with the service, but they'll just go to the next one. And that's only from a unified standpoint. That's not in traditional. Let me point that out just so we don't have any confusion. Traditional teams play by unified teams. Traditional teams that play unified teams will play by the unified rules. So that we just put that in there because sometimes it is a growing sport. So sometimes we will have traditional teams that have to play unified teams. I will reach out to those teams way ahead of time. You won't show up the day of and figure out that you're a unified team playing a traditional team or vice versa. I'll make sure that I talk to both coaches and that we make sure everybody's happy with that situation there. And for the entry form, it's going to be a lot like football. There we go. I see a couple names on there. So basically your coaches, athletes, partners, and then Adrian's got that up top there. Let me kind of minimize my screen so I can see that a little better. Yeah, so any players from last year. It's going to talk about your level of play, team 1 being the highest, team 4 being the lowest. This just once again helps us division the best we can. If you did play last year with us, stronger or weaker, we really appreciate that because I know we do the best we possibly can to make the competitions fair and very, very balanced when they play. Team entry form is going to be basically the same thing. You get your team competition name, all of your personal information, what team they're going to be competing with. I'm glad we didn't put any Miami teams on there. Well, we could put some Nuggets teams on there. And then the individual rating form, that's also a 1 through 4 scale. And that's just 1 being the highest, 4 being the weakest. So once again, that helps us. I just was using that for softball a second ago when I was doing the schedule for softball because I needed to look back on the individual players. So it really does help us out in the long run. And then back on the other, past that black side is the individual skills. If they want to participate in that, they'll click on that. And similar to football, they can find all the competition for individual skills on our competitions page. And if you do have an athlete in a wheelchair, we are definitely exploring ways we can make that work for athletes. So please just let us know ahead of a time. And we'll be glad to work with you that way. I think that's it for volleyball. Volleyball is a pretty easy one to cover. Adrian is being awesome here and going to the skills page. I love it. Thanks, eh?
Or just while that's coming up, there was a question if there's a rule on spiking the ball over the net and if that is allowed.
I don't believe there is anything that says we can't do it. I mean, if an athlete can, hopefully the coach would put them in the proper division where they're playing against teams that can play at that level. But I do not believe that we have a rule prohibiting spiking. But I know if I see it, I'm going to make sure that they're playing against teams that are a level 1, because that's pretty good volleyball there.
All right.
Corey, I take exception with that because I can get my athletes to hit a ball with one hand over the net, but they can't pick up a serve. So I don't think just because you can spike a ball over the net makes you level 1. So that's
Well, is this Kathy? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I can't see who's talking. So Kath figured it. So Kath, I definitely, it's a judgment thing at that point. If I'm watching somebody who can take a 3-step jump and come off the ground and spike a ball over the net, that's a level 1, level 2 area. A person hitting the ball with one hand as it's coming into them. I mean, that truly the definition of a spike is, leaving the ground and, forcefully hitting the ball with one hand in a downward motion. A one hand, kind of hitting the ball, that's not technically a spike, but that's all judgment stuff. And if we see it, I mean, yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. It's not something that we're going to say, oh, the game's over right now. I'm probably clap and applaud and be amazed by the athlete and then just see where the game goes from there. If we need to make adjustments, the nice thing is we're really flexible and we can do that kind of stuff.
Right.
All right. Susan, you want to cover principals' meaningful involvement?
I'd love to. I think this kind of ties into that conversation as well. Principles of meaningful involvement it's just really that every teammate has a role on the team that is meaningful to the team itself. Does that mean everybody's going to play every minute of every game? No. I think if you look at any team, Nuggets being a good example, kind of everyone has their role, but they're all a meaningful part of the team, at that point. So I think it's just really making sure that athletes and partners, athletes and partners are there to play together in a unified manner. But I think that's also a reminder that the partners are there to support athletes in their successes throughout the events as well. So just making sure that everybody from athletes to partners does really have that meaningful role where they're a part of the team, where they feel valued, and where they're able to show their skills and their personal talents, whatever those may be as well. So I think that's, hopefully don't want to, harp on it too much, but just, when you're watching your teams, you guys, if you've played sports, you know what it's like to be on a team and you know what it's like to not feel like a part of that team. Whether you're the star player or not, everyone should be able to have a meaningful role on that team as well. So any questions on that?
Well, we are going to breeze through these last few slides. We're almost at the tail end of our call here, and then we'll take any questions at the end here. So Kyle, going to hand it off for codes of conduct.
Codes of conduct. So this is implemented statewide, season in, season out, as you guys have seen. The primary purpose of this is to have that standard for participants. These are all athletes, coaches, spectators, volunteers, unified partners, for them to abide by. And this is for the safety and well-being of all of our athletes and anyone participating in our Special Olympic events. This could be outside of competitions as well. So it's not just our competitions that you so often see this in. We do have codes of conduct available. We can share that out with you guys. It's also available online. And we do ask that you try to review these with all of your participants going into your first practice or in person at your first practice as well, so everyone can be up to date and be aware of what is expected of everyone throughout the season.
Also soon to come, and if it hasn't happened already, codes of conduct are going to be built into the athlete application and then also the Class A. So whenever somebody's renewing or completing it, they will be prompted to review and sign the code of conduct as well going into their participation.
We do have violation forms for anybody that you feel has gone against these code of conducts. Your regional managers have these and can share them with you. You will submit that back to your regional manager and or Megan Scrimmen, our CEO. So you guys have an opportunity to notify us of anything that might have occurred at one of the events or trainings. Just for your awareness, reports typically take about a 30-day period. It's reviewed by an internal committee, and then the appropriate actions will be talked about and then communicated back to you guys on next steps and so on and so forth.
Okay, so we have athlete emergency contact forms. This should be filled out at the first practice of each season. So coaches, you'll have your athlete or the guardian complete the form. This includes like medical concerns. If there's medication that they're taking, this is the form. We'll also send this to you guys after the call. And this should just take place of you guys having to carry around their athlete application. So we also created a document as a resource for coaches to help clearly define like arrival and departure timeframes within their teams. It basically outlines the do's and don'ts for athletes and unified partners to follow when arriving to and departing from practices. It establishes like the expectations for the individuals and their care providers. So this is not mandated. It's just a resource for you guys to use.
And then just to finish out, we are growing our Spanish speaking participation and are constantly looking for coaches who are able to support the growth of Spanish speaking athletes. So if you or anybody in your community is a Spanish speaker, bilingual, and interested in serving as an interpreter at practices, if you know of anybody, let us know. It will help facilitate more onboarding for athletes and placement with some existing teams. So just keep your regional manager posted if you know of anybody. Also, to wrap up here, we have an opportunity with one of our sponsors, Thrivent. They're hosting a financial workshop for families and athletes on how to do their financial planning. Information is provided here. It's localized here in Littleton. And if you're interested in registering, link will be provided. We will also send follow-up information in our recap email. Here to close, there's just important links that we kind of shared as we went along through the presentation of where to find all the relevant information that we covered. And then stay connected with us. We have all of our monthly newsletters that go out on the 15th of every month, where we provide updates of upcoming season and important events and activities that you and your participants can engage in each of your regions. And then we have the regional Facebook pages as well, where we provide those similar updates, and you can stay connected and informed. And with that, we have wrapped our fall season coaches call. We are happy to stay on and answer any questions that you all may have. If you don't have any questions, we are grateful for your time and thank you for staying on. We apologize for going just over on our time, but thank you for staying with us, and we look forward to seeing you all at practices, regionals, and state competitions in the upcoming season. Very grateful for your time now and your forthcoming time that you're going to give during the season as well. So we will stick around here for a few minutes and answer any remaining questions. Otherwise, for those of you who don't have any questions, thank you, and we'll see you soon. Were there any remaining questions in the chat that we didn't cover as we went along? We're good there? Okay, great.